In the modern world, humanity has forgotten how to listen. We scroll more than we breathe. We speak more than we feel. And in doing so, we've silenced one of the most ancient forms of communication known to man, the language of the earth itself. There was a time, long before cities and machines, when people could speak with the forest, the shamans, the mystics, and the priests of Thoth. They understood that everything that exists, every living creature, every sound, every breeze, is a vibration, a message from the divine. And among all these messengers, birds were the purest. They were seen as the bridges between heaven and earth, the living translators of the unseen world. Their songs weren't just noise, they were codes, frequencies carrying instructions, warnings, and blessings from realms far beyond human understanding. But Thoth revealed a secret. He said, "You were never meant to live apart from them. The same current that flows through the wing of a bird flows through your own heart. The moment you quiet your mind, the moment you let go of the human need to control and interpret everything, you begin to feel that current again. You start to sense the rhythm of life beneath the surface, and that's when communication begins. When you step into a forest, you're not entering a place, you're entering a consciousness. Every rustle of leaves is a whisper, every gust of wind is a word, every bird that sings is saying something, not in sound, but in energy. Most people walk through nature as tourists, but those who understand Thoth's teachings walk through as translators. They listen differently, they see differently, and what they discover changes the way they see all of life. Because if you can learn to communicate with something as free, as divine, as a bird, you begin to communicate with existence itself. So, what did Thoth mean when he said there's a code to speaking with birds? What happens when your vibration matches theirs? And what does it truly mean to understand the language of the forest? Let's unlock the mystery and uncover the 5 stages of Thoth's forgotten code to communicate with nature itself. 1. The silence code. Thoth said, "To hear the divine, one must first become quieter than the world." The silence code is the foundation of all higher communication, not only with birds or forests, but with existence itself. You see, silence is not the absence of sound, it is the alignment of energy. It's the moment your internal storm calms enough for you to hear what has always been speaking. When you walk into a forest, you carry the residue of your world, the notifications, the noise, the weight of conversations that linger in your chest. Nature feels that. To her, you are a moving storm, ungrounded, impatient, full of static, and so the birds stay away. Not because they fear your body, but because they sense the disorder in your vibration. Thoth taught that the language of the forest begins where the language of the mind ends. To enter the silence code, you must first learn to empty yourself. When you breathe, breathe not to fill your lungs, but to erase your noise. Feel the wind flow in and out of you, until your breath matches the rhythm of the trees swaying above you. Let your thoughts dissolve, not forced, but naturally, like clouds fading into a clear blue sky. After some time, something strange happens. The forest stops feeling like a collection of sounds. It begins to pulse, as if every leaf, every insect, every distant call is part of one living organism. You're no longer listening with your ears, you're listening with your nervous system. In this state, you'll notice the first whisper of communication, acceptance. A bird that was once distant suddenly lands closer. A gust of wind brushes against your skin, right when you ask a silent question. This is not coincidence, it's response. Nature has begun to recognize your vibration, not as human intrusion, but as a returning part of itself. The ancient priests of Thoth would spend days in the desert, practicing the silence code, before attempting to commune with nature. They knew that sound without stillness is meaningless. One cannot send out a frequency until one has first tuned to the universe. Silence, therefore, is not passive, it's a calibration. It's how you match the rhythm of creation. When you truly enter silence, something even deeper awakens, your intuition sharpens. You begin to understand patterns that logic could never touch. You feel when the wind is about to shift. You know when a bird's song means joy or warning, even without translation, because your soul recognizes vibration. It always has. It's your mind that forgot. Thoth said that silence is the bridge between dimensions. It's the doorway where the physical world and the unseen world meet. When your mind is quiet enough, you begin to hear frequencies that aren't audible, the soft hum of energy that connects all living things. In that moment, the forest ceases to be out there. It becomes you. You are no longer the observer. You are the frequency itself. The same wind that moves the branches moves through your breath. The same pulse that beats in the heart of a bird beats in your veins. And when that happens, the communication begins. The birds no longer sing to you. They sing with you. Their voices blend with your presence. And for the first time, you understand, not through translation, but through resonance. This is the essence of the silence code, to become so inwardly still that the universe no longer has to shout to reach you. And when you master this, every sound around you, the chirp of a bird, the whisper of a leaf, the distant crack of a branch, becomes a part of one continuous divine conversation. Because Thoth was right. Only when the mind becomes silent does the soul begin to speak. 2. The law of mimicry. Thoth once said, "To understand the language of another, you must first learn to sound like them, not in voice, but in spirit." This is the foundation of the law of mimicry. It's not about imitation, it's about resonance, the sacred art of vibrational empathy. Every living being emits a frequency, a signature tone that reflects its inner state. Humans speak in words, birds in melody, the wind in vibration. But beneath all these forms lies the same source, intention. And intention is the true language of the universe. When Thoth taught the priests of Kem how to commune with the natural world, he didn't give them words or chants. He told them to listen until they could feel the emotional rhythm behind the sounds. A sparrow's chirp of alarm, a raven's song of warning, a dove's soft murmur of peace. All of these were emotional frequencies, not random notes. Thoth said that when a person's heart mirrors that same emotional vibration, communication begins instantly. The birds don't respond to your words, they respond to your energy pattern. This is the law of mimicry. When your emotional frequency aligns with another being's state of consciousness, you no longer speak to them, you speak as them. Imagine walking into a forest with the same peace that a bird feels when it glides through the morning air. Your breathing becomes slower, lighter, almost musical. You hum softly, not to call but to harmonize. The forest begins to respond. A small bird tilts its head toward you. Another answers with a similar tone, and without realizing it, you have entered the oldest form of conversation known to creation, communication through vibrational empathy. The priest described this state as becoming the echo of the forest. When you echo the vibration of peace, peace surrounds you. When you echo gratitude, life multiplies it around you. And when you echo fear, nature mirrors it back, instantly. This is why animals grow restless around angry people and calm around those who radiate serenity. It's not instinct, it's frequency recognition. They see your inner state through sound. Thoth explained that the key to mastering mimicry is the heart, not the throat. You cannot fake a vibration. You cannot pretend to be calm when your spirit is restless. The universe reads energy, not words. So before you speak to the birds, learn to feel like one. Close your eyes. Imagine what it feels like to live without tomorrow, to exist purely in the present. That's how they live. No plans, no anxiety, just existence. When you feel that, your vibration matches theirs. At that point, even if you whistle a soft tune, it carries truth, and they respond to it. They're not reacting to the sound itself, but to the emotional code hidden beneath it. It's the same reason why some people can calm a frightened animal without touching it. They're fluent in energy. Thoth said that every tone we release, every sigh, every laugh, every cry, leaves an imprint in the ether. When those tones harmonize with nature, the forest remembers you. You become part of its frequency network, and wherever you go, the trees and birds recognize your energy before your body even arrives. The ancient mystics used this to navigate forests safely. They would mimic the tone of the wind, hum in rhythm with the crickets, and align their heartbeat with the rhythm of the earth. Predators ignored them. Birds gathered around them because they weren't intruders, they were echoes of the living symphony. To master this law, remember, it's not about sounding like nature, it's about feeling like her. Your vibration must sing the same emotion the world around you is already expressing. If the forest is calm, be calm. If it rains, surrender to its melancholy beauty. Because resistance separates you from the code, acceptance aligns you with it. The law of mimicry is the art of remembering that you are part of the orchestra. You were never meant to shout over nature's music. You were meant to find your note and play it in harmony with all that exists. Thoth's words echo even now. When man forgets to mimic the divine, he forgets how to belong. And perhaps that's why so many feel disconnected today. They've stopped listening for the melody of life. But once you begin to hear it again, you'll realize that every bird that sings is waiting for you to answer. 3. The feather frequency. Thoth once said, "The feather is not a symbol of flight. It is a key to the invisible frequencies that bind the heavens and the earth." This is the mystery of the feather frequency, the hidden vibration that connects all living beings through the language of energy. To most, a feather is simply something that falls from the sky. But to the ancient initiates of Thoth, each feather carried a message. They believed that birds could travel between dimensions, not because of their wings, but because of their alignment. Their feathers vibrate at frequencies beyond human perception, receiving and transmitting information from the unseen realms. When a feather touches the ground near you, it's not coincidence, it's resonance. It means your energy field has momentarily aligned with the consciousness of the sky. The universe speaks through synchronicity, and feathers are its messengers. Thoth revealed that the same electromagnetic field that flows through a bird's feather also flows through the human heart. When your emotions are pure, balanced between joy and sorrow, your heart emits a frequency that mirrors the vibration of nature itself. This is why animals sense calm around peaceful people, and why birds land near those whose hearts are still. The feather frequency is the bridge between emotion and creation. He taught that every emotion you feel changes the tone of your personal energy field, much like how wind shifts the direction of a feather. Anger makes your frequency sharp, sadness makes it heavy, peace makes it weightless, and it is only in weightlessness that the soul begins to fly. To access the feather frequency, Thoth instructed his followers to perform the rite of still air. They would sit in silence beneath the open sky, breathing slowly until their thoughts became lighter than air. Then they would hold a single feather before their eyes, and focus on it, not as an object, but as a living extension of divine balance. They would feel its softness, sense its fragility, and recognize that such lightness can only exist in the absence of resistance. He said, "The human heart must become as light as a feather to ascend." This was not just poetic, it was scientific on a spiritual level. Your emotions emit waves. When those waves are turbulent, you repel harmony. When they are calm, you attract life itself. Birds, trees, wind, they all read these waves instantly. This is why a person in peace can stand in a forest, and every creature continues its rhythm as if nothing changed, because the forest sees them as part of its own flow. In the ancient Egyptian weighing of the heart, a soul's purity was measured against the feather of Ma'at, the feather of truth and balance. If your heart was heavy with chaos, you could not ascend. Thoth said this was not only about the afterlife, it was about your vibration now. When your inner world is burdened with anger, guilt, or fear, you lose connection to the natural symphony. You stop hearing the whispers of the forest. You stop feeling the pulse of the divine through the wings of creation. But when you return to emotional equilibrium, neither attached nor detached, simply present, you begin to feel something subtle, a quiet hum, almost like the sound of air passing through feathers. That hum is the feather frequency, the soundless sound of alignment. Thoth taught that once a person could hold that inner balance, they could communicate with all living things. Birds would respond to their presence. Wind would shift direction when they breathed with intention. Even the smallest leaf would seem to shimmer when they walked past, not through magic, but through synchronization. The feather frequency is not just about birds, it's about how you move through the world. To walk lightly, to think gently, to love without control. These are all expressions of the same code. Because the lighter your heart becomes, the closer you move to truth. And perhaps that is the secret Thoth wanted humanity to remember, that every feather that crosses your path is a mirror, a reminder of the state of your own heart. If you pick one up, don't just look at it, listen, ask yourself, is my heart this light? Because only when it is, will the forest recognize your soul as one of its own. 4. The whisper of symbols. Thoth once said, the universe hides its greatest truths in symbols so that only the awakened can read them. To Thoth, language was never about letters or words, It was geometry, movement, and energy. He taught that every motion in nature carries a message, and every creature, knowingly or not, participates in the sacred conversation of creation. The birds were his favorite messengers, not because they could sing, but because they moved in patterns. Each flight, each formation, was a written verse in the book of the sky. A single bird crossing your path was not chance. It was a symbol, a living hieroglyph, written by the divine hand of vibration. Thoth called this the whisper of symbols, the way the universe communicates with the observant. He said that nature's language is too vast for words, so it speaks through patterns, signs, and synchronicities that reflect the inner state of your being. When you learn to see the world through this symbolic lens, you realize that life is not random, it's responsive. Everything that appears before you, every bird that lands near you, every feather that crosses your path, every sound that repeats, all of it mirrors your frequency. It's as if the universe is whispering to you in a code only your soul can decode. Thoth explained that the symbols of nature are multidimensional. They speak to the body through sensation, to the mind through pattern, and to the soul through recognition. A bird flying east may symbolize new beginnings. A raven circling overhead may symbolize an unseen warning. A dove resting nearby could mean alignment, peace, or divine affirmation. But the true message is not in the symbol itself, it's in the feeling it awakens within you. He said, symbols are not meant to be studied, they are meant to be remembered. Because when you encounter a sign that feels powerful, it's not teaching you something new, it's reminding you of something ancient that you already know. The whisper of symbols requires presence. You must become a watcher of patterns, the way shadows fall, how the wind shifts right after a thought, how certain sounds appear when you ask for guidance. These are not coincidences, they are resonant echoes of your consciousness interacting with the living field around you. In ancient temples, Thoth's disciples practiced this awareness as a daily ritual. At dawn, they observed the movement of birds across the horizon. At dusk, they studied the formation of flocks as they spiraled into the setting sun. They believed that the birds formed geometric shapes that corresponded to the patterns of energy within the human soul. To them, a flock was not a group of creatures, it was a living sigil in motion. Modern science might call it instinct or migration, but Thoth called it communication, the great dance between heaven and earth. The birds write in the language of light and air, revealing that creation itself is structured by harmony and rhythm. This is the same principle behind sacred geometry, circles, triangles, spirals, and symmetry. It is the code of creation expressing itself through form. He said, when man forgets the symbols, he forgets the song of the universe. That is why so many walk through forests without ever hearing their music. They see shapes but not meaning. They hear sound but not message. They exist, but they do not listen. But when you remember how to read the whisper of symbols, the world changes. You begin to notice how life speaks directly to you. Your thoughts create ripples that echo through nature, and nature replies through signs. A bird landing beside you, after a moment of doubt, is not by chance, it's the universe saying, trust again. A feather on your path, after you've released pain, is a silent confirmation, you are lighter now. To those who are awake, life becomes a dialogue, a dance between consciousness and creation. Every moment becomes sacred, every encounter becomes meaningful, and every bird becomes a messenger of your own awakening. Thoth's final words in this teaching were simple yet profound. The gods do not speak in thunder or fire. They speak in symbols so gentle that only the humble will hear. So the next time you find yourself surrounded by the quiet song of the forest, pay attention. Look not just with your eyes, but with your awareness. Because somewhere in the pattern of the wind, the movement of a wing, or the fall of a feather, the universe might be whispering directly to you. 5. The Code of Reciprocity. Thoth's final lesson was the most sacred of all. The Code of Reciprocity. He said, communication with life is not achieved by asking, but by offering. To truly speak with birds, to connect with the forest, or to touch the spirit of any living thing, you must understand this universal truth. Nature only opens to those who give more than they take. When most people step into a forest, they enter with a sense of ownership. They want to take photos, take air, take peace, but they rarely give anything back. Thoth warned that this mindset blocks the natural flow of communication. You cannot command what you do not respect. You cannot understand what you approach with selfish intent. The ancients knew that every exchange with the world carries energy. When you walk through a forest and leave no trace, when you breathe quietly and thank the wind for its coolness, you're not just being polite. You're signaling to the natural world that you understand the unspoken contract of existence. You're saying, I'm here not to take, but to harmonize. And nature listens. Birds can sense emotional frequencies far beyond human perception. They can feel fear, impatience, and greed as vibrations in the air. If you approach them with a restless mind, they scatter. But if you approach with gratitude and stillness, they stay. Sometimes they even draw closer, not out of curiosity, but out of recognition. They feel that you belong. Thoth described this as energetic reciprocity, a loop of giving and receiving that binds every living thing. When you give respect, you receive understanding. When you offer calm, you receive trust. When you show reverence, you receive revelation. This is not superstition, it's physics of the spirit. He taught that birds, in particular, are the guardians of this balance. They are the forest's eyes and messengers. They do not just fly aimlessly, they record frequencies. Their songs are responses to the vibrations around them. If you learn to give them calm energy, they will mirror it back through sound, rhythm, and movement. Thoth's disciples once practiced this code by performing silent rituals in the forest, leaving offerings of seeds, clear water, or simply a word of gratitude whispered into the wind. They believed that every act of kindness toward nature echoed back through time, creating a resonance that strengthened their connection to all forms of life. This is why Thoth said, if you wish to hear the language of the birds, first let your heart speak the language of gratitude. Modern life has made us forget this sacred reciprocity. We think communication means dominance, shouting louder, demanding answers, or forcing results. But Thoth's code reveals the opposite truth. The more you surrender, the more you receive. Next time you stand beneath a tree or watch a bird in flight, try this. Don't label it. Don't analyze it. Just feel the presence of life flowing through both of you. Offer a silent, thank you. In that instant, you'll notice a subtle shift, a gaze held longer, a branch swaying gently, a bird singing in your direction. That's the response. That's nature saying, I hear you. Reciprocity isn't just about balance, it's about alignment. When you live in harmony with this principle, you stop feeling disconnected or lost. You begin to sense that everything, from a leaf to a star, speaks the same language, and that language is energy given freely. Thoth's final message on this law was written in the margins of an old papyrus. He who gives to the wind will one day be carried by it. He who listens to the birds will one day be understood by them. Thoth's final whisper, the return to the great song. Thoth once said, the forest does not need you to speak, it needs you to remember. These 5 codes, silence, mimicry, frequency, symbols, and reciprocity, are not just ways to talk to birds. They are paths to remembering the language of life itself, a language that every soul once knew before the noise of the modern world made us forget. When you master these laws, something extraordinary happens. You stop feeling separate from the world. The wind no longer sounds like background noise. It becomes a teacher. The flutter of wings becomes a sign. The rustle of leaves turns into a dialogue between your soul and the eternal consciousness that flows through all things. You begin to realize that communication was never about words. It was about resonance. Everything that exists vibrates, and when your vibration matches that of peace, nature opens its gates. The birds recognize you as kin. The trees lean toward you, and the earth seems to breathe with you. It's not fantasy, it's remembrance. Thoth taught that those who could truly hear nature's voice carried a power far greater than wealth or intellect, the power of alignment. When a person walks in alignment with the laws of the living world, they are never lost, never lonely, never powerless, because they are part of something ancient, intelligent, and infinitely kind. He warned, however, that this power must never be used for control. The ability to speak with the forest was not given to dominate it, but to protect it. Those who used this knowledge with pride found that the forest fell silent around them, as if the earth itself withdrew its trust. But those who spoke with humility, discovered a lifelong companionship, a sacred friendship between spirit and nature. Thoth's writings describe the moment of true connection as the great song. It's not a literal melody, but a vibration that fills every atom around you, a pulse that syncs with your heartbeat. When this happens, you'll notice something indescribable, a deep peace that feels eternal. The kind of peace that can only be found when you stop speaking at the world and start listening with it. He said, when you find a great song, the birds will no longer fear you. They will circle above you, not as strangers, but as brothers. The forest will no longer hide from you, because it will recognize you as its own. So the next time you step into nature, pause, close your eyes, let go of your thoughts, your labels, your noise. Listen not with your ears, but with your soul. And if you listen deeply enough, you might just hear the soft murmur of wings, the hidden laughter of leaves, or the distant echo of a language you once knew long ago, the song of the eternal. And in that moment, you will understand what Thoth meant when he whispered, "He who learns the language of the birds, learns the language of God."